Welcome to Capital City News, your connection to Salt Lake City government. I'm your host, Poonam Kumar. Today we'll talk to Chief Burbank about use of force issues in Salt Lake City, and our History Minute this week is about the time Mark Twain met Brigham Young. But before we check out what's been going on in the city, let's start with our legislative update. At a recent meeting, the City Council discussed options for new off-leash dog areas. A pilot program is being developed that would establish time frames in the mornings and evenings for dogs to run off-leash in one park in all 7 districts. The council also adopted the final 9-line corridor master plan. It's a $700,000 effort to improve the corridor as a major pedestrian and bicycle link between the city's east and west neighborhoods. The Mayor's Office of Diversity and Human Rights hosted the last of 3 dialogues with the community on use of force issues. The dialogues were a chance to bring residents together to offer input on what the police department could do better regarding the use of force. The mayor's office is currently working to compile comments and concerns from residents to guide next steps. At an event on March 24th, Mayor Becker announced that Salt Lake City would indeed become the next Google Fiber City. Plans are underway for Google to build a brand new fiber optic infrastructure in Salt Lake City, but first they need to get through the design phase. Be sure to keep up to date with Google's process by signing up for updates at their fiber website. City officials held a press event on March 26 to unveil the complete name of the new Performing Arts Center and the first book show of the season. The George S. and Dolores Dora Eccles Theater is set to open in the fall of 2016, and the first announced show is The Lion King. To talk to us about the next steps the police department will take to implement community input from the Use of Force Dialogue series is Police Chief Chris Burbank.
One of the unique things about Salt Lake City that I enjoy most is the fact that we can come together and have dialogue even around very difficult and sometimes emotional topics. And that separates us from a lot of different communities. And having just finished a series where we talked about police use of force, there was certainly a tremendous amount of passion. And there's an opportunity for people to be upset and to be angry. And I would never minimize the impact of a police-involved shooting, especially on family members or on a community or on friends and neighbors. I mean, that is tremendous impact. But we need to start moving the dialogue to, okay, how are we going to respond to this? What are we going to change? And it's not just always about police response, but it is also about what our expectation is. What are we responding to? Never will we excuse poor or inadequate police behavior or action or even response. But oftentimes we're interjected into situations that can be very difficult and sometimes very stressful and emotional that maybe are not always rising to the level of police action. One of the most difficult things to do, both for police officers and for the public, is to say, you know what, we may walk away from this situation. So what is public expectation? And that's where I think our community dialogue is at least starting to move in that direction, and I look forward to the future because it is only working together that we solve problems and can change policing. And should policing be changed throughout the United States? Absolutely. In fact, you look in my short 25 years in the profession, it's changed dramatically. We need to continue to evolve, and it is only through community participation, right? Outline community expectations, and that's expectations that don't separate police and community, right? We are part of the community that we serve, and so that dialogue needs to be with everybody, and then we come to resolution and ultimately improvement.
And now it's time for our History Minute.
During Brigham Young's tenure as the chief official in the state of Utah, it was customary for government officials and dignitaries to pay a visit to him when they passed through Salt Lake City. It was on just such an occasion that none other than Mark Twain met Brigham Young. The year was 1861, and Twain, still known then as Samuel Clemens, was traveling with his older brother, Orion, who had been appointed to be the first and only Secretary of the Nevada Territory by President Lincoln. In his book, Roughing It, Twain described his first look upon Salt Lake City, saying, "All the world was glorified with the setting sun, and the most stupendous panorama of mountain peaks yet encountered burst on our sight. We looked out upon this sublime spectacle from under the arch of a brilliant rainbow." When they arrived in the city, Young received the Clemens brothers, and Twain described him as very simply dressed. Quote, "He talked about Utah and the Indians and Nevada and general American matters and questions, but he never paid any attention to me," Twain wrote. I made several attempts to draw him out on federal politics and his high-handed attitude toward Congress. He merely looked around at me at distant intervals, something as I have seen a benignant old cat look around to see which kitten was meddling with her tail. By and by, I subsided into an indignant silence, and so sat until the end, hot and flushed, and execrating him in my heart for an ignorant savage. But he was calm. When the audience was ended and we were retiring from the presence, he put his hand on my head, beamed down on me in an admiring way, and said to my brother, "Ah, your child, I presume. Boy or a girl?" And while this is the only first-hand eyewitness account of the meeting, it's almost certain that Twain made up at least the last part. Instead of an androgynous child, he was actually 25 years old when he met Brigham Young, and his career as a humorist under the name Mark Twain was just about to begin.
That's it for this week's Capital City News, your connection to Salt Lake City government. Be sure to tune in next time to see what's happening in Salt Lake City. For SLC TV, I'm Poonam Kumar.